We have some things to talk about. If you're like me and your friends love to torment you, you may have received videos, or maybe you came across them, perusing the interwebs, your YouTube, your tiki-takis and all that. You may have seen a lot of people talking about how, look, Revelation 12 is being fulfilled this year on Rosh Hashanah. It's going to be the rapture. Well, it's September 22nd, according to my calendar. We're all still here. Now, that doesn't come as a surprise to me for two reasons. One, I'm not a pre-trib rapturist, and I already did a video on the rapture. Actually, I did two. It's an accidental series, and those links are below. I don't want to address my thoughts on the rapture for this particular episode. I do, however, want to address Revelation 12, and I want to place everything on the table right now that I can. So the second reason I knew that we weren't going to be raptured and that Revelation 12 wasn't fulfilled this year, 2023, is because it was fulfilled back in 2017. I've been writing on this since literally 2014. I wrote 4 shorter booklets. I compiled them all in one book back before the alignment in 2017. And the link below, if you want to get it. If you want to buy all 4 because you think maybe I've made a lot of changes in between, I want to lie about it, you don't trust me, that's fine. Never trust me. Please buy all of the books. But yeah, this one has all 4 books. I do make like there was 1 or 2 corrections I needed to make on some calculations, but that's it. So yeah, if you want to understand the fullness of the argument and everything that you can take out of the alignment, which is significant, get the book. I am just going to be scraping the iceberg, the tippy toppest of the iceberg on this episode. But hopefully by the time we're done, you'll understand what's happening, why Revelation 12 was fulfilled back in 2017, what it means, etc. Before we begin, I would like to say thank you to 2 people. Well, 3 technically. One, definitely Chuck Missler, who did a lot of work on this subject. The late Chuck Missler, thank you, sir. Frederick Larson, a link to his website, bethlehemstar.net, is below. Please follow it. Please see and read his material. In many ways, he's the foundation. His work is the foundation for what I've done here. I've never met him. Nothing I say should reflect on him. I'm simply saying thank you because in many ways, he started me on this journey. I would also like to say thank you to Scott Clark, whom we, at the time I was writing, we disagreed on a lot of things on this. I've never spoken to the man. I've never met the man. Again, nothing I say should be put on him. I just want to say thank you for your work. Now, what am I saying about Revelation 12? What am I not saying about Revelation 12 and this alignment? I am saying September 23rd of 2017 was the fulfillment of Revelation 12. Also, it is not complete, not until 2027. I'll explain all that in a moment. But that, yes, Revelation 12 has already, specifically verses 1 through 5a, were fulfilled on that day. Verse 5b, and I'll show you what I mean here in just a second, will not be fulfilled or completed until 2027. So yes, fulfilled, but not completed. And here's what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and read this real quick. This is Revelation 12, verses 1 through 5. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon its head. And his tail drew the third of the stars out of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth the man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Specifically, that part has been fulfilled as of September 23rd, 2017. This last bit, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. That is being fulfilled now and will be completed in 2027. Now, here's the thing. In order to show that that's what it is, we do need to address whether or not it's even if there's any reason to look to an astronomical alignment or really a series of astronomical alignments as the fulfillment of Revelation 12. And if it is, isn't that, witchcraft? That's astrology, looking to the stars for these things. And God forbids that, doesn't he? Yes, he does forbid, astrology. However, I would like to point one thing out here. There is a difference between astrology and astronomy. Astronomy is all over the Old Testament. Specifically, we have the Mazzaroth. This is nothing more, nothing less than the 12 sidereal constellations. Sidereal constellations meaning the constellations that the sun and moon pass throughout the year. You could call it the Mazzaroth is essentially the Jewish zodiac, although I tend to not like the term zodiac because it is sort of a astrological idea. The Mazzaroth is not astrological in nature. It is simply their way of charting things. However, astronomy is all over the scriptures. I've talked on this channel before about how when we did our thing about the angels, right, that the cherubs were clearly representing they represented four of the four cardinal directions on the Mazzaroth, right, on the zodiac. Taurus, Taurus, Leo, etc. Also, the 12 constellations reflect each of the 12 tribes of the Hebrew people. Each nation is given their own constellation. Judah, for whom Christ came out of, was given the sign of Leo. So Judah is Leo, the constellation. That's their sign. Please keep that in mind. So again, astronomy, not astrology. But one other thing to back up here. In Genesis, right, when God creates the sun, moon, and stars, he says very specifically that they are to be used for times, seasons, and signs. And so it's not just for telling time. That's one of the purposes they're there. Determining seasons, also why they're there, but also signs. And that word signs can mean miraculous signs. It is something different from times and seasons. That word in Hebrew, I've never pronounced anything correctly. I'm a Texan. But when it came time to be translated into Greek by the Septuagint, 200 years, again, that was translated 200 years before Jesus was born. They use the word, again, Texan here, semeion. We'll go with that. And guess where that word also shows up? So again, you read it as signs in Genesis in English. It's what the word means in Hebrew. It's translated to semeion or semeion, whatever, in Greek. It means the same thing. It can mean, again, like a banner. It literally just means sign, but it can also mean, by context, miraculous signs. So that's the same word, semeion, in Greek, that's used in Genesis. It's also used in Luke 21:25 when Jesus says there would be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. Oh yeah, Jesus said there'd be signs in the sun, moon, stars. So we're told to look up, to look to the sun, the moon, and stars for signs. Not astrology, but astronomy. Also, that word occurs one more time, or actually several more times. Oh, that's right, in Revelation 12 itself. Yes, when you read, and there appeared a great wonder, that word wonder in Greek is semeion. It's the same exact word. And also, what happened, right? What's going on here just before this? In Revelation 11, we've just completed the trumpets, and John is in Jerusalem. He was there at the temple. He looks up into the sky. So Jesus told us that there would be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. The word that he uses, semeion, was used about why the sun, moon, and stars were created back in Genesis. And John, again, in his vision, is in Jerusalem. He looks up into the sky where he sees a great semeion. So should we look to the sun, moon, and stars as a possible solution for Revelation 12? Yes. Is it astrology? Absolutely not. Because I'm not looking to the sun and moon being in Virgo as having a special meaning per se. What I'm saying is, hey, look, there's a series, and we will show a series of conjunctions, alignments, eclipses that match this story in its entirety and match up the text very precisely and allows us to make predictions and derivations. And it works really, really well. And this is the only time in human history when we could even see these things because of our computers. What I am saying is that Revelation 12 being complete, verses 1 through 5, when they are complete, it is a road sign. It is a cosmic road sign telling us where we are, what season we are in. And that's all. This is not something to be feared. It's not something to be afraid of. It is something to be very optimistic about. Now, to sort of prove one more time that we should be looking to the sky for Revelation 12 is, what is the story itself, right? Let's go back to, what is the story being told? A woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. This all looks very familiar, obviously, to the dream that Joseph had. Let's move on. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and in pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. What is the story? The story is the life of Jesus. But very specifically, 90% of this is about his birth, right? It's about his birth. Did Satan try to kill Jesus as a child? Yeah, Herod, slaughter of the innocents. Was he born of a virgin? Yes, he was. So the bulk of this story is about his birth, even though it's about his entire earthly ministry. But 90% of it is about his birth. Did his birth have anything to do with astronomical alignments? Yes or no? I'm just going to stare at the screen because I know you know the answer to this. Yes. Well, yes. There was something to do with the stars for Jesus' birth. I seem to remember Babylonian Magi seeing his star in the heavens and going to find him because they said, hey, we need to go worship him because the Jewish Messiah was born. So not only do we have Jesus saying we should be looking to the sun, moon, and stars, not only did he use the same word that in Genesis for signs as to why the sun, moon, and stars were created, or at least one of the reasons, and that same word is being used by John. He's like, hey, I looked up. I was in Jerusalem. I looked up. I saw this thing in the heavens. The story that is being told is about Jesus' birth, which primarily revolves around Babylonian Magi seeing the stars. So yeah, there's really good reason to look at Revelation 12 verses 1 through 5 The rest of it, that I don't believe has anything to do with astronomical alignments. It's a different story. I just want to focus on 1 through 5. There's really, really good reason to look at this and say, yes, this is about an astronomical alignment or a series of them. Oh, yeah. Well, hold on. If the Babylonian Magi saw the first time, you should look at what they saw and understand that God would give us, if it's a coded message, if Revelation 12 is a coded message, and it is with a lot of levels that we can't even address, go get the book. You want all the levels? Go get the book. In fact, there's probably levels I haven't even found yet. But if it's a coded message, shouldn't he give us a decoder ring? Why, yes, he would, because he's a smart God. He is a brilliant God, and he's not going to leave you hanging. What should our decoder ring be? I would suggest the Babylonian Magi. They saw it the first time, right? So we should probably address what they actually saw. I went ahead and recorded this on Stellarium. I'm trying to do it in a way that y'all can see it. I apologize for the sound. I don't know why it's trash, but it is. By the way, if you're listening on KPNL radio, I recommend, or just listening to it, recommend going and seeing this on Rumble or YouTube, because it's very, very visual. So it is 3 BC, September 11th on our calendar, but more importantly, Rosh Hashanah. So if you're a Babylonian Magi and you've been expecting the Jewish Messiah to be born within a time frame that you're living in, and on the same night that you hear the different Jewish sects within Babylon blowing the shofar, proclaiming Rosh Hashanah, you look up and you see this. Sorry about that. It occurs to me I should probably mention one thing. Why, beyond the fact that the Babylonian Magi were there to worship Jesus, the whole alignment, all that, aside from being the decoder ring, one of the things I pointed out is, why would they be the decoder ring? Why would they have appeared in the first place? Remember, Daniel was a Babylonian Magi, and throughout his life, everyone who came against him ended up getting. So, by the time Daniel has passed, he's survived several kings. He's basically got all of his enemies are gone. The Babylonian Magi would have reviewed or viewed his writings as divinely inspired, even if they didn't become worshipers of Jehovah. They would have seen his writings and said, "Yeah, we need this dude's on point. We need to be paying attention to some things." They would have had access to the Hebrew scriptures because they had them. They would have had copies. And remember, in Daniel's writings, he does predict when Jesus would ride into Jerusalem. So they were looking for a time. They said, hey, okay, we can calculate from this point on, 500 years out, we can just back it up. So they knew the time frame that they would have been in to be looking for something astronomical. Just a quick note. Sorry, forgot to mention it. Back to the video. Jupiter, the king star, is in conjunction with Regulus, which is the royal star or even the throne star in the constellation of Leo. Well, here's the thing. Leo is the sign of Judah. You have all this in your head because of everything that you have because of Daniel, the prophet. So this is clicking in your head. You're saying, hold up, something's happened. And so you watch. And because you're an astrologer, you study the stars for a living as a magi, you know that Jupiter's precession, meaning where it seems to move backward, is coming up. So you're watching very, very closely. What do you see over the next 41 weeks? Let's just advance by days. And if you notice, I've got a little tail going so you can actually see Jupiter's travels. So Jupiter has been in conjunction with Regulus on September 11th, Rosh Hashanah, and now you're watching it. And it loops back. And you knew it was going to do this because, again, precession. And, oh, look at that. It comes in conjunction with Regulus again. But you know it's going to loop back around. And it does. So what happens then? Oh, look, it touches Regulus one more time. So here's where things get really interesting. It's June, and we get to June 17th. Jupiter and Venus are in conjunction. This is, there we go, 17th. Full conjunction. This is 41 weeks after September 11th, after Rosh Hashanah, after that initial conjunction. If you are a Babylonian Magi living at this time, there's only one way for you to determine or to decode what you just saw. Jewish holiday, that's the time of the first conjunction. You are waiting for the Jewish Messiah. Judah, you know he's coming from the tribe of Judah, and you know that Leo is the sign of Judah. 41 weeks between September 11th and June 17th. That is the length of a pregnancy. Venus, even to the Babylonians, was feminine. It's very, very clear to them what they just saw. This was a series of astronomical alignments that they would have interpreted as the birth of the Jewish Messiah, which they were waiting for. This is now when they begin their journey to Jerusalem to talk to Herod. So that's the first video. So again, you've got the Babylonian Magi. If they are our decoder ring, because of what they saw, again, you want a full understanding of what happened back then, please go see Frederick Larson's website and review that. But what did they see? They saw something. They saw those alignments, those conjunctions, and said, Jewish Messiah was just born. We need to go worship him. Therefore, they are our decoder ring. And when we see these things, we need to realize, okay, well, if Revelation 12 is a series of astronomical alignments, then we should look at their understanding of the sun, moon, and stars. Also, we should look at this alignment and the things that occur on that day as our clues, right? So let's look at one of the things that occurred, right, is, and this is what everyone was sort of talking about this year, saying, oh, well, hey, look, Virgo, right, is there. The sun is in Virgo, covering her. The moon's at her feet. That is what occurred on Rosh Hashanah of 3 BC. That was sort of the thing that Frederick Larson saw. So if this is sort of the model, saying, because he's the first one who saw this and said, hey, this looks like Revelation 12, then we would expect Revelation 12 to look like this, right? And it does. Let me go ahead and throw that up there real quick. So September 23rd of 2017, we have Virgo. We have the sun is in Virgo. It's a little small dot. I actually see everything. The moon is in the upper left-hand corner at her feet. And Jupiter's between her legs because she's just given birth. I'm going to go through the video on that. But you also have down here Mercury, Mars, and Venus in alignment with Regulus. Remember, Regulus played a very important role in the original announcement. Now, again, please, you'll have to read the book for all of the details on this. But you may be saying, okay, so we see the woman clothed in the sun, moon, she's given birth, the moon's at her feet, she's crowned with 12 stars. By the way, to get to those 12 stars, Leo in the Babylonian constellation, because every culture interprets constellations a little bit differently. Sometimes Leo is depicted as having 9, sometimes it has 13 stars. The Babylonians had 9 stars within the constellation Leo. Now, When Mercury, Mars, and Venus are all in alignment with Regulus, you could say Leo now has 12 stars from their understanding of the heavens. So she's got 12. So again, Virgo, the woman, clothed with the sun, because the sun is covering her. You wouldn't see this because it's during the day. The new moon's at her feet. So everything's there except for the dragon, right? This is one of those things that a lot of people who originally did champion September 23rd of 2017, they missed. They didn't know what the dragon was. Well, I'm going to tell you. Since everything about Revelation 12 is a planet and a constellation, and they had something to do, more or less, with the original alignment, then there needs to be another planet that could be seen by the naked eye, because there are five. There are 5 classical planets. And it would have to have something to do with the constellation. That should give us our clue. So let's go back to September 11th of 3 BC, Rosh Hashanah. Oh, look at where Saturn is. It's between the horns of Taurus. Now, that may not mean anything to you per se, but again, full details in the book. Essentially what this does is this recreates an image of the Apis bull. The Apis bull, I would submit, and a lot of other people have submitted as well, other scholars have suggested this, but that the Apis bull was literally what the Hebrews would have made when they made the golden calf. They would have represented it as an Apis bull, because it's what they knew. So if Saturn is the villain of this story, right? If Jupiter, again, the king star, is the hero, it represents Christ, and Saturn was sort of making the representation of the Apis bull that makes Saturn the villain of the story, then, for the purpose of this alignment. So we should see Saturn having something to do with this. And it is beneath the feet. It's in a constellation we don't think of as a constellation. In fact, it sort of came back into consciousness, oddly, very recently. It was in the constellation of Ophiuchus. But what we need to understand is Ophiuchus, as we understand it today, is very different from Ophiuchus of the past. See, Ophiuchus is technically a sidereal constellation, but nobody actually observed it. I mean, not because they didn't see it, but they didn't include it on the calendars. It's the 13th month, technically. It's a little odd. But I want to throw up a rendering of Ophiuchus. This is actually from the book. Ophiuchus is the serpent bearer, and modern star charts do separate the ancient constellation of Ophiuchus into 3 smaller constellations, but to the ancients, it was all one large constellation. It's also called Serpentarius. That's my personal favorite. And to the Babylonians, it was shown as a man holding a large snake, or also a man or like a king riding the serpent god Nera, learning the secret and forbidden wisdom of the snake. Other times, it was depicted as Nera himself. That is, Nera sort of depicted as the constellation of Ophiuchus from the Babylonians. That's the image there. Interesting point. This is not mine. I was shocked when I learned this. Nera is a serpent god that was also seen as the serpent from the Garden of Eden itself. So, if you were to ask the Babylonians, they would have said, "Oh yeah, those Jewish stories about the Garden of Eden and that serpent. Yeah, that was Nera." That's not my conclusion. That's not mine. That is the findings of many, many scholars. Again, all references in the book. So if Saturn is in Ophiuchus, so Saturn, which is the villain of the story, according to the annunciation of Jesus's birth, if that's the villain, and that star is in Ophiuchus, which to the Babylonians, who are our key, remember the Magi would have seen this as literally the serpent god from the Garden of Eden, you got your dragon. One other thing. Before I'm going to show a video of the whole thing. we need to say one more thing. All of this comes on the heels of the 4 blood moon tetrad. If those of you who were around during that time frame and remember the hoopla of the blood moon tetrad, each one of these blood moons were occurring on a specific Jewish feast day or important Hebraic day, including several solar. So you had lunar eclipses and solar eclipses, all occurring on either feast days or important biblical, historical Hebrew dates, right? But the main ones, the blood moon tetrads, were all on the feast days. What we have is a pattern: 4 blood moons on biblical feast days, just like we have the alignment. All of these important dates and events are occurring on feast days, specifically Rosh Hashanah. The stars will then have, the planets need to tell the story of Jesus. If all these occur and match, then we have our story. So let me actually show you. Remember, the lunar tetrad has occurred, 4 blood moons on feast days, including 2 solar eclipses, again, on important Hebraic days. Let me go ahead and give you the actual alignments. It is August 13th of 2015. The final blood moon has yet to occur. And where do we find Jupiter on this day? Hey, it's back in Regulus, meaning, since we know that Jupiter represents Christ, Jesus specifically, it is Christ enthroned. We know this. Now, what happens? Oh, hey, it starts moving away. So this is where Christ has left the throne. Now, to be honest, we're going to need to jump ahead a little bit, like a year, because it's going to take a little bit longer to do that. And here we are, 20. Well, that's only a month ahead. Let's go to, there we go, 2016. December 10th is when Jupiter officially enters Virgo. And what happens? Loops around. Oh, the procession's happening again. Keeps going, loops back around. We're getting into 2017 now. Loops back around. Now we're almost to September. And September 14th, 23rd. There we go. September 23rd, what do we see? Well, September 23rd is exactly 41 weeks from December 10th, the day that it enters Virgo. So there's the repetition of the number, 41 weeks. Where's the sun? The sun is down here. Where's the moon? Over here. Moon is at Virgo's feet. The sun, again, I've turned off the light so we can see it, but she's clothed or veiled in the sun. Jupiter, which represents Christ, has been in her womb for 41 weeks. He is now born. And where is Mercury, Mars, and Venus? Oh, look, they're right down here. And they're in alignment with Regulus. So for this one day, the day Jesus, Jupiter, is born, after being in the womb for 41 weeks, she has above her head a crown of 12 stars, because in the Babylonian count, Leo had 9 stars. But now, because Mercury, Mars, and Venus are in alignment with Regulus, from their view, from their interpretation, they would have said, oh, for this one day, Leo now has 12 stars. And where's Saturn? Saturn's way over here in Ophiuchus. And remember, so Saturn's right here. Remember, Babylonian Ophiuchus includes Scorpius. So Ophiuchus, the dragon man, the serpent man, with the scorpion. Saturn, the star of Satan, is within the serpent constellation. Not just any serpent, the serpent from the Garden of Eden. There you go. That's the 2017 alignment. But guess what? It doesn't end there. Because if it did, well, everything's over, right? Remember, this is a stop sign. Now for this, we're gonna need a few extra days. So if you will pardon me, let me come over here. We got to jump ahead to 2027 and July 2027. And let me find, there's Leo, and that's Jupiter. But just so you know, I'm not playing any games here. Let me search up Jupiter. There it is. So that is Jupiter. And we're centered on him again. So what happens on July 27 of 2027? Jupiter returns to Regulus. Christ has returned to his throne, as is described in Revelation 12, thus completing that prophecy from verses 1 through 5 in its entirety, in its fullness. We have the woman clothed with the sun, with the moon at her feet. She's pregnant, she's given birth, she's crowned with 12 stars. Below, waiting to devour the child, is a dragon, not just any dragon, the dragon from the Garden of Eden, Satan. The child is caught up and returns to his throne. The prophecy is completed, and what we have is the time of great trials during this 10-year period. From 2017 to 2027, this is the beginning of sorrows that Jesus spoke about. And from here on out, we're on borrowed time.
I think I stopped that a little early. I apologize.
So let's repeat. You have 4 blood moons, all on Jewish feast days, 2 solar eclipses on important Hebraic holidays. You then have a series of alignments that tell the story of Jesus's life as is depicted in Revelation 12. The star Jupiter, again the planet, literally stays in Virgo for 41 weeks. Just like there was 41 weeks between its initial conjunction with Regulus and its birth in coming to conjunction with Venus 2,000 years ago. And if you were to look at it, again, on Rosh Hashanah, if you were to look at the Revelation 12 alignment on September 23rd of 2017, from the viewpoint of a Babylonian Magi, this is what you would have seen. Leo, the sign of Judah, having 12 stars. Because Mars, Mercury, and Venus are in alignment with Regulus. Virgo. And yes, the Babylonians would have seen Virgo. I forget the proper name for it, it's in the book, but she was a yearly virgin. So yes, she was a virgin. The sun is in Virgo, so it's covered, so you can't see it. Jupiter has been in there for 41 weeks. What's the length of a gestational period for a human? 39 to 42 weeks, right there. She's given birth. Moon is at her feet. And below her, Saturn, the the villain of the story, and it's Ophiuchus, the serpent. And from there, what happens? Jupiter goes on for another 10 years, for until 2027. So 10 years later, returns to Regulus. The child is caught up to his throne. That's the story. That's Revelation 12. That's Jesus's signs in the sun, moon, and stars. Sun and moon come first. Then you have the stars. The stars tell the story of Jesus, as depicted in Revelation 12, as understood by the Babylonian Magi, who were the people, the only people, to whom God did not go to specifically and say, hey, the Messiah was born. God he sent angels to shepherds to say, hey, because I know you ain't going to see this any other way, Messiah's born, go worship him. The Magi, God didn't have to go to them. They were looking for him. They realized the season that they were in. They saw this, they went. They are our decoder ring for this whole thing. What does it mean? September 23rd of 2017, Revelation 12 was fulfilled. It's not complete yet, but it was fulfilled. It has nothing to do with the rapture. And all it says is, hey, after July 27 of 2027, anytime after that's when the final 7 years can start. I don't think it's going to start immediately. Why do I think that? Well, go back and reread Revelation 12. Because she flees to the wilderness. She's then kept. Again, there's 2 periods of 3.5 years. That's the tribulation. But there's this period where she flees to the wilderness. I don't know if it's going to be immediately after, July 27, 2027. Could take a year or two. Could take, 6 years. Guess 2033 maybe. I don't know. Could it take 60 years? I don't know. I'm not a date setter. Again, gun to my head, I think it would happen sooner rather than later. Point is, this is telling us the season that we are in. That's it. That's all. It's a cosmic signpost telling us, hey, wake up. It's coming much sooner than you think. And it's not something to be afraid of. Everyone always freaks out, like, oh no, it's the end of the world. It is the end of this world's system. It is the return of Christ, where he comes to set up his reign. That's all. It's not the end of the world. It is the end of this world. A system that is completely screwed up, that's based on pain and suffering and injustice. Even in the best of times, injustice exists, and poverty exists, pain, warfare, all exist around the world. That's our legacy. Christ is coming to end that. I don't know about you, but I'd like to live in a world where, hey, Christ is king. We have a ruler we can trust who's not trying to screw you over. Now, does that mean that we should stop doing what we're doing? It's like, oh, okay, well, we just need to sit back and wait for Jesus to fix everything. No, you need to be doing your job, making the world a better place, preaching the gospel, and doing what you can to have an effect in the world around you. If you're a Christian, you're part of the kingdom, and that kingdom is here now with you. Don't be waiting until he shows up. Our job is to get everyone in the boat and to represent him as well as we can. That's it. I'm not afraid of this. Okay, great. Things are going to get a little messy. Guess what? Things have been messy before. You think things were great during World War II, World War I? You think things were great when Genghis Khan was riding the steppes? No. There's always been trouble in wars and famines. Things are going to go up a notch. But you know what else? It means we, as Christians, rise to the challenge. In days, Christians are doing miracles, man. We're told this in the book itself. Read the book. This isn't a time to fear. It's time to get your game face on. We're in the final quarter now. Okay, cool. Bring it. Let's rise to the occasion. There's no more time for sleeping. That time is long past, friends. So yeah, Revelation 12, verses 1 through 5a, fulfilled completely as of September 23rd, 2017. The rest of it, 5b, that part in yellow at the very beginning, and her child was caught up unto God in his throne. We got a little bit of time, July 27, 2027. Then it is fulfilled completely. After that, all hands on deck. Don't fear this. Live in strength. Live in power. Know that this is the time you were called. You were born for this time. You were born for this time. Rise up to the challenge. Christ wouldn't have put you here if you weren't supposed to be here. All right. So again, if you want the fullness of, there's so much here. When I say we have scraped the top, I mean the very tippiest top of this iceberg. I mean it. If you want the full thing, go read 2017 and beyond, the complete tetralogy. It'll show you way deeper how deep this rabbit hole goes, looking at the alignments and what they mean, and the constellations and the Babylonian understanding of them, and the hidden messages within them. It also kind of changes how you should read the book of Revelation. It is not written in chronological order. It is actually much easier to understand when you realize we've been reading it incorrectly the entire time. And once you see it, it actually becomes really easy to understand. It really, really does. So, I recommend it. So on that note, I'll see y'all next time. Be good. Thanks for watching Jason McLean Questions Everything. We're live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central. Please share this video with your friends, then like, follow, and